Hi, I'm Jen Brown. I'm the director of the Center for Literary Arts at Frostburg State University. And before we begin this talkback for our 2021 One Act Play Festival, I'd like to just offer some thanks to, of course, all of the directors and actors and authors whose work you've just seen during the broadcast of the festival, but also to a person who's been instrumental behind the scenes, Heidi Gardner, who is the managing director of the One Act Play Festival with us here at Frostburg State University, and who not only kind of makes all the arrangements for directors and some of the arrangements related to actors, but also was the kind of technical wizard who made that live broadcast happen. So we're certainly indebted to Heidi's work for the festival, as always. I'd also like to issue some thanks to offices that support our work, including offices at Frostburg State University, such as the Office of the President, the Office of the Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, and also the Department of English and Foreign Languages and Literature. The work of the center is also supported by the City of Frostburg, by the Allegheny Arts Council, and also by the Community Trust Foundation. So we have with us today Craig Bailey, who is the author of the winning play, The Mockingbird's Nest. We also have Andy Croston, who directed A Lovely Day for a Boating Trip, right, the second place play. And we have Wendy Walker, who was the director, Wendy Snow Walker, who was the director of Mab's Rabbits. And I guess because we have Wendy's under a little bit of a time crunch. Wendy, if you would be willing to just kind of share some of your responses to, or some of your experience of working with directing that play, we'd love to hear about it.
Sure. Thank you so much. Actually, it was just so much fun and such a privilege to finally be able to work with the Play Festival. Thank you, Virtual Theater, for all of its issues and problems. It does really allow us a lot of flexibility to connect with artists all over the place. So I really appreciated the invitation to be involved with the festival this year. We really enjoyed working on Mab's Rabbits. It was a group of us from Pointless Theater Company in Washington, D.C. And we had a lot of interesting, fun discussions about the fertility and fairies and Shakespeare and all of the themes that we find in this one act play. And we had fun kind of putting it together as well. I made a definite choice as a director to cast a male actor as Mab, but I really felt reading the play, I think the character was very gender neutral. The playwright had written that it was an older woman in the description of the character, but as I read the play, I just didn't feel that was a necessary part of the character. And I really enjoyed having Scott, who is a brilliant actor, portray Mab. And he and Elise had some really great chemistry. Haley played Elise, and I really enjoyed working with both of them. So those are my thoughts on Mab's Rabbits. I hope you enjoy it.
That's great. So you did mention that you are part of the Pointless Theater Company. Do you want to take a second to just kind of talk about the mission of that theater company while you're here?
Absolutely. I always love to talk about Pointless Theater. So we have been in Washington, D.C. since 2012. The company was started by a group of students at University of Maryland, and we are exclusively an adventurous puppet theater company. We do original work with puppets. Our themes are very adult, and we tackle some interesting subject matter, things you wouldn't necessarily think of coming to life with puppets. In 2019, we created a piece around the 2002 sniper shootings in DC, sort of a revisiting of that from the perspective of people who grew up, who were teenagers in that time period. And that was a very interesting piece. Currently, we are working on a staging of Rhinoceros, UNESCO's Rhinoceros with puppets, and that will happen in 2022, our first live performance in 2 years. So yay, we're excited about that. But we do experimental, adventurous art in the nation's capital, and we're happy to do it. And we love having lots of audiences come from all over the place. And we certainly invite you to be part of our Pointless family.
That's so great, Wendy. Thank you. And exciting about the Rhinoceros.
Yeah.
So one of the things, just because we did have a chance to talk with Heidi a little bit before the live stream, and she pointed out that one of the benefits, although we certainly have challenges with these virtual productions, but one of the real benefits is that we're able to pull in people who wouldn't perhaps be able to join us in Frostburg, right? That we get to have the benefit of people kind of coming in from outside. So we're so grateful that you were able to be part of it, be with us this year. So we're grateful to you for that. Now, I know that you have, again, kind of a time crunch, but if you can hang out, we might get some questions from the chat on YouTube, and we appreciate it. So Craig, I guess this is a good time for us to hop to you. Do you, I guess my first question, what's your thought having seen the performance of The Mockingbird's Nest? I guess any remarks you'd like to make for us? Oh, Craig, you're muted.
Thank you. I was saying it's always very strange to see something that you spawned from your imagination actually being performed live in front of you. It's always a treat. We've had a number of readings of the play, and it's been interesting to see the different interpretations that everyone kind of puts on it.
So what, I mean, of course, this is the question that people ask you, what made you make the choice to write the characters in that way, to kind of have this suspicion about the one, but then the kind of truth about the other, that she's a AI construct?
Yeah, well, the notion of the play started when I overheard a conversation. A friend of mine was talking about how, with the aging population, she had heard that they were experimenting with artificially intelligent caregivers in some part of the world. And I thought it would be interesting to try to write a play where the audience is maybe misled into thinking that the caregiver is an artificial intelligence, only to discover further into the play that it's actually the opposite. And if it was the opposite, what would be the background that would cause somebody to wish to take care of an artificial intelligence? That was kind of where it all started from.
That move is a heartbreaking one, right? To kind of see her struggle with the idea of penance, where there's a suggestion that it's penance that's causing Robin to reach out to that, to have that care, mother to care for, artificial intelligence mother to care for. I'm checking to see if we have other remarks. Well, so before we lose Andy, who's also traveling, Andy, you were talking just before we started about, and we're grateful also to you for participating and directing Lovely Day for a Boating Trip and To Kill Your Spouse, that there is, you were kind of talking about some of the challenges also and opportunities that are provided by, this virtual setting. Do you mind kind of sharing that again?
Not at all. Yeah, I think that, it is so interesting doing virtual theater, these days, and now going on into the second year. I've actually done a lot of it on both ends of the spectrum, both performing and being behind the scenes. I did the play for the One Act Play Festival last year as well, directing. And it is just so interesting. One of the highlights, like you already mentioned, of course, is that people can come together from all over the place and all over the world, which is definitely a positive. One of the interesting things, of course, though, too, is performing for no audience. And that is, I just find to be a challenge. So come through green or any it's literally just you performing. But one of the interesting things too that I do really like about it is some of the technological things that you're able to do and different effects that you can add both visually and like sound effects. Of course, what you can do in live as well, but you know, it makes it more as you know, since it's not, you know, you're not there in the room, you know, you can do some interesting things in that way. But I loved working on the piece. I thought it was a lot of fun, and I thought Amy and Kirk did a phenomenal job. Yeah.
They were really a delight to watch. And well, I also was kind of wondering. So you had particular choices that you made. You sort of ran through some options for Amy and Kirk. Can you talk through some of those choices that you made in directing?
Yeah, absolutely. Can you still hear me? I'm still here.
You're a little glitchy, but I think we have you right now.
Okay, definitely. Well, one thing actually, when we first read through the piece, Amy and Kirk, we played it very serious and like a melodrama. And the whole thing kind of had this very, very dark undertone. And there certainly is those aspects of the play, but then when we decided to run through it a second time, I said, you know what, guys, I think we need to try and bring out the comedy a little bit more. And I would have liked to explore that more if we, you know, had a chance to do the show again. But I really, I thought Amy did an especially good job with this. Touch with reality and kind of unhinged in a way, and making it so yeah, you know, one of the things I told them inspiration were the characters in the TV show Schitt's Creek, the Roses, who are, you know, this, you know, very rich people who are sort of placed in this world where that's completely different than what they know, and that's what I thought those characters were like, you know, these sort of rich upper class people in the middle of the ocean on the rowboat about to kill each other. And I thought they did a good job with that.
Well, actually, I need to say to all of you that it seems like we might have a serious glitch happening on YouTube. Give me just 1 second here.
Don't you love technology?
More and more every day. So one of the things, this is a good opportunity for me to say that, you know, we really have tried to do as well of a, you know, we tried to do as good a job as we could these past 2 years with working with the When I Play Festival in a remote setting. But we definitely will be looking forward to being back in the Palace Theater next fall, and then get to kind of be all together again for these events, while I'm trying to figure out what might be a cataclysmic tech glitch. Craig, can you talk through some of your choices in writing Mockingbird's Nest? You know, why we get to see that moment of kind of the unveiling of the story of the father killing the birds, right? Or other choices that maybe you kind of struggled with as you were working on writing the play?
Yeah, you know, I think that one of the most interesting things about the process of writing this particular play is that when I sat down to begin writing, I didn't have the story of the bird's nest at all. That was something that came about after I sat down and just started to write. I had some vague notions, like I mentioned before. I wanted there to be an artificial intelligence and that type of thing, and I wanted there to be a reveal. But the whole concept of the bird's nest was something that I just dreamt up during the writing, and for me, it was sort of a testament to at some point you just have to sit down and start to write. And you don't necessarily know what you're going to write. I mean, had I not named the character Robin, and I didn't, she originally was named something else, I wouldn't have had the play that I ended up with. And I'm fairly happy with the way it turned out, but I also recognize that it was just serendipity in some way that I happened to choose a name. And I thought, well, it'd be good to have a story of maybe how she got the name. And that was where, and then somehow he tore the nest down. That just kind of came up, and it's like, oh, well, that's good. That's kind of disturbing. And it's like, generally speaking, I mean, I think that if I've got a point of view, if there's something I'm trying to say, it might be that, we all have this notion that we know history, we know what happened in the past because people have told us, or maybe, maybe we think we've experienced it, but it's pretty tenuous. We don't really know necessarily. And we certainly, if we weren't there, we don't know what happened. And it's something that's sort of unsettling, but it's sort of something that's part of being human, maybe. There were some practical considerations that I took. I wanted to write a play that hopefully would be produced. So I chose a very small cast. I chose a very simple set. I chose almost no props. It's really pretty easy to produce. I understand that roles for women are in demand. So I could have made 2 men. I decided it would be 2 women. And I understood that older roles are also in short supply. So here was an opportunity to write a play that had an elderly woman and then another woman in her 50s or 60s. So all of that was really strategic in the sense that I really hoped to be able to get this play produced and eventually published. So those are all, not artistic decisions necessarily, but practical decisions that went into determining what I was going to end up writing.
It's really interesting because that kind of place for the older woman is, I appreciate that you did kind of recognize that there are maybe fewer roles for older women. But it's something you said just made me think of a thing that I also would be remiss if I didn't say about the One Act Plays Festival, which is our typical structure is to do staged readings of the third place and second place plays, and then more of a staged performance of the first place play, right? Which explains, for those of you who might have been watching that broadcast, explains the difference between kind of how things looked, right? Although, again, this virtual setting gives us an opportunity, as Andy said earlier, to kind of give a little more production to some of these what would traditionally be staged readings. But I guess another benefit of festivals like ours is that because we are kind of trying to get work early, right? That sometimes these plays are still kind of in development, right? There's still an opportunity for playwrights to hear kind of how the the lines come out in the voice of other people, and how how maybe some pacing or other choices might be able to be kind of reconsidered or revised after they kind of hear the staged readings or see the staged performance. We also have the ability to take some kind of a little bit of risk, right? Because it is a small festival. So just while I'm thinking of it, I would kind of not be doing my job if I didn't make that remark about part of what the purpose of the festival is as well. It also gives us a good opportunity to work with people across different, across different groups in the community, and then even kind of outside of the community. So we do have people we've had people in the past who were it was the first time ever that they had been on stage, or people who have been involved in kind of community theater for a while, or involved in professional theater for a while, but who are able to come together and kind of jump into it, right, in our festival. And in a way, Andy, I really feel like you're a person who has jumped into it, and we've been lucky to have you, because you have lots of other work that as you've referenced, you've had lots of other work that you're doing on stage all the time. And as I gave Wendy kind of an opportunity to talk about the mission of the work that they're doing with their theater company, do you want to talk about upcoming projects that you have or things that you're working on right now?
Sure, thank you. Primarily I actually am a performer. So to be given the opportunity to, it's exciting. And actually, the more that I do it, so thank you, and the festival and Heidi for that opportunity. Yeah, normally you can find me on stage. I do musical theater, regular theater, a little bit of drag. And I'm actually on the way to Florida we're on tour right now with a show called it's the Golden Gaze NYC, and we do a Golden Girls musical. And we just finished up a regional tour upstate, and we ended in Cumberland. We did 2 shows down at the Embassy Theater, and now we're heading to Florida to do 2 weeks in Fort Lauderdale, and followed by a cruise. So things are super busy, which is really exciting and great. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm doing right now. And our stuff, you can find it, it's thegoldengazenyc.com. That's where all that stuff lives.
That's so great. Thank you, Andy. And I suppose also fair question to you as well, Craig. What's the play you're working on now?
To be honest with you, I'm not working on anything right now. I don't know if there's a word for the opposite of prolific, but if there is such a word, that's me. I was a writing minor in college, and I wrote as a hobby when I was much younger, and then I sort of fell out of it for decades. And it was the year before the pandemic, 2019. I thought, maybe I should try to write something again. I remembered this was not the play that we are talking about now, but this is a different one act. I actually started this one act in like the early 1990s, and I wrote 5 or 6 pages of it, and I got intimidated by it, and I put it away, and it was in a box for almost 30 years. And in 2019, I pulled it out and I finished it. So I have that play and this one that I'm working on, marketing, but I'm not really writing anything right now. But I hope I'll come up with another idea sometime along and find some time to do it. By the way, if you ever want to know what works in your writing and what doesn't work, let it sit in a box for 30 years. The stuff that doesn't work, it jumps right out at you.
I give really similar advice to my writing students, but I tell them it's more like 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even 2 or 3 weeks will do it. But my point is, you can imagine what 30 years does. It's like there were some things in that play that I had planned and that I had already written. It's like, oh, geez, that doesn't work at all. Take that out.
Well, is it too much detail for you to tell us what one of those might have been?
No, I mean, well, again, this is not The Mockingbird's Nest. This is a play that I ended up calling Mitch McClay Sings Just for You, a one-act play, which takes place in a small radio station. My background is in broadcasting. I went to college for radio, and I worked in radio full-time for a while, and I still do it part-time. But it's a small 2-person play, a man and a woman and their co-workers. And at some point, I through the course of the play, I imagined them having a romantic attraction to one another. And that was one thing that 30 years beyond just seems so inappropriate to me. I mean, forget about the Me Too movement. I mean, even without that, it just didn't seem like it was right at all for that play. So that it entirely went out the window. I mean, that's a pretty good example of one thing that I just did away with. The other funny thing about the play is that it's actually set in the late 80s, early 90s, not because I was looking to write nostalgia, but because that's when I started writing it. And the culture of radio broadcasting at the time, it really sort of forced me to keep it in that time era. So.
Well, I mean, it works out that right now, we're in that kind of revival of the 80s and 90s. So
yeah, exactly. We'll see if that works for me at all.
That will benefit. Well, let's see. I'm checking to see if we have other questions. We only have a comment here, which is just that that someone thought that having a man play Mab worked really well. That would have been in Mab's Rabbit. Also, so just another remark is that I want to recognize kind of the work of all of the actors, and another director who was unable to be with us, who we certainly made the choice to go online pretty early in the arc of our thinking about the One Act Play Festival this year. But one of our directors actually had COVID in the time when we would have kind of been on stage if we had been on stage. So we clearly made the right choice to be online. But I do just, I guess, also want to recognize that that other director, Jordan Klein. All right, so I guess lacking other questions, the thing that I should probably just do is thank both of you for being here. Also to thank Wendy, who was with us but had to leave. Again, to thank Heidi Gardner for all of the work that she does, which is just monumental work on the One Act Play Festival. And I guess if either of you have a kind of final thought about this year's festival, if there's a remark that you feel inclined to make, speak now or forever hold your peace.
I just wanted to say thank you. It's always exciting to have somebody show interest in your work and to give it a prize, and it's very flattering and exciting to see it come to life. So thanks.
Absolutely. I was honored to be asked again to do it this year, and I hope to do more in the future. And I also can't wait to get back in person. That will be very exciting. I love the Palace Theater in Frostburg, and maybe there's an option for now. I mean, the direction we're going in with things returning to live audience. I've been seeing theater give the option for live stream and virtual in addition to in person. So maybe that's a thing that could happen. So that this work can still be viewed by people everywhere. It could be a live stream thing.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think we probably have some opportunities that we still need to investigate as far as how we can continue to broaden the audience while still keeping that delight of our little kind of scruffy group in the Palace Theater, which I have such love for that space and all of the history of that space. But yeah, great point. And I'm grateful to both of you for your work, certainly, and grateful that you're both with us, have been with us for this little period of time today. And I guess thanks to those who are watching and who might watch into the future. We appreciate your time and your energy and the gift of your viewership. So on that note, I thank you all, and we look forward to seeing you in the seats of the Palace Theater next year.
Sounds good.